Hello, my adventurous shutterbugs. My name is Alexandra with the Bucket List Mermaid, and it is my goal to help you live adventurously through your lens. So you've gone to the top of the summit, you've gone to a cool travel destination, a safari, a waterfall, whatever your adventure was, and you took this amazing photo. Well, your work is not done here because I am going to teach you how to edit that photo. And I'm going to do that by showing you how I edit my photos. Now, this is going to be very kind of subjective because I'm going to be editing this in my style. I would highly encourage you to find your own style and also edit in Lightroom. Resist the urge to just do those one-click Instagram filters, okay? They're not personal, they're not you. And if you've gone to all this effort to travel to a destination and take your camera and get that beautiful photo, trust me, your photo actually deserves the attention of Lightroom and your creative style. So let's get started. I am here in Lightroom today. I'm sorry, I'm not doing the classic version. Man, when I was a beginner, I did not realize that classic was a thing, so I got used to this version, so I'm very sorry I'm going to be doing it in this version. Anyway, this is a picture that I got from Florence, Italy at the Piazza Michelangelo. Anyway, let's make this a beautiful photo. My goal for this photo is I want it to be like a kind of underexposed, moody, pastel, romantic, dreamy type of feel. I tend to go more towards, where it is a little bit more moody and cinematic. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be focusing on bringing those pinks out and the purples out. So let's get started. The first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to crop it. This just kind of helps me see what actually the photo is. So I prefer to do this first. I do notice that it's leaning just slightly. So I'm going to go to this crop tool. I would either use this slider or say auto. Ooh, actually, I feel like the auto actually worked. Sometimes it does not. And I don't think it needs any of this geometry or anything, so I'm going to go back here. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this profile. Now you can hit auto, but I almost never do this because it always looks not great. I almost said a bad word there. It doesn't look great. And it also messes with all of these sliders. So I'm going to turn auto off, and I'm instead going to go to adaptive color. Better. It doesn't mess with any of these sliders, but again, it doesn't do my goal. My goal is not a bright and airy photo. Maybe it is for you, but it's not for me. I want to go with that dark cinematic. So instead, my next option is Adobe Landscape. So much better. Love it. That's the kind of vibe I'm going for. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do my white balance. Now, again, this white balance can change the aspect of your photo so much. And it also can create the entire vibe of your photo. So that's why I prefer to do this before pretty much anything else. Now, I'm going to take this little dropper thing and I'm going to go and I'm going to choose a neutral area, like a white. Okay, so that added a little bit more yellow into it, which I do like. Just to kind of show you how powerful white balance actually is. Let's say I wanted to make this more of a like a sunset shot. Look at that. Done. Changed. I could bring out those pinks, bring out the orange, and have a completely different photo than I had. So this is why I would recommend having your own style and your goals before you even touch the photo, because you can do so much with this program. Now with me, I want to focus more on that really juicy blue hour. So I'm going to bring it back down, maybe add some pink into this photo, not too much, and I'm going to skip the vibrance and the saturation because if anything, I'll probably actually pull it down because what I'm doing is enough to pop those colors. I mean, even if you just look at the before and after, it's so ahead of where it was before, even with just the edits that we did and not even touching the vibrance or the saturation. So next, I'm going to go down to this color mixer right here, and this is absolutely my favorite thing to do in Lightroom. Well, maybe my second favorite thing, but I just love isolating colors and making them different. So as I said, I'm going back to my goal. I want dreamy, pink and purple, romantic. Okay, so this red, let's see. Okay, so it's showing up a lot in the clouds up there. So I'm going to go more towards a pink. Saturation, maybe a little bit. I'm assuming it's the same with the oranges. Okay, yeah. So see how that just changes so much. So I'm going to go down, maybe bring it a little bit more towards pink. Be a little bit more towards yeah, I like it there. Maybe a little bit more towards a pink. Yep, love it. Okay, now the yellows, I don't really want to focus on yellows because I think that would be distracting. The goal here is not to have all the colors completely saturated and vibrant. The goal is to kind of like isolate some colors so that it brings your viewer of your photograph more into the photo. And it just looks better, more aesthetically pleasing. So with this, I'm going to bring it down to orange, and I'm also going to like lower the saturation a lot because I don't want any yellows, and I also don't really want any greens. Teals, I don't think it's going to pick up literally anything in here for teals. Now the blues are the most important part. With all of that I've learned about editing, I feel like the blues are actually the most important thing in order to stay consistent, and they really, really do tell a story within your photo. So I tend to go more towards like the purpley blues. So I'm going to go over there. Great. Actually, kind of leave it in the middle. I kind of like it where it is. Okay. Increase the saturation. Now the purples and the pinks, let's make these pop a little bit more. Okay, so I'm gonna, yeah, okay, I like it there. And then with the pinks, I like the hue of where it's at, but I might bring up the saturation just a little bit. Okay, yeah, and look at the difference between what we were isolating in those colors. I love the sky in here. So now let's go down to color grading. And with color grading, I am going to maybe add just a little bit of pink and purples into the shadows, maybe right there, just a little bit. It does not need to be like all the way there. So I'm just going to put it maybe around there. And then one of the things that I like to do just for balance is I will go on the opposite side of the color wheel for the highlights. So maybe just put just a little bit of green, and then it just kind of balances the photo out a little bit. I'm not going to touch the mid-tones in this one. So let's go to this tone curve. I don't love to do tone curves a lot just because I feel like it makes my photos unrealistic, but I might just give a gentle S curve by bringing down the shadows a little bit and then just bringing up the highlights and the lights. Okay, then I'm just going to leave it, and that's it. So after I am done with where my color is, I'm going to go back up here to the light segment. This can be done before if you want to. I think I just prefer to get my colors set in place before I do this, but I'm just going to go through and just start making very, subtle tweaks over here. I'm going to look at this histogram, just make sure that nothing's clipping. Like for example, like if it's right here, all of this is clipping the shadows. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that histogram, and I think I like it right there. Maybe increase the contrast a little bit. Maybe bring down the highlights. I think what helps me a lot is if I go a little too far and then I bring it right back up from there. So I like there. Okay, that's too much. So maybe like right there. Okay, like the moodiness of that, but I think I like it about right there. So that is where I'm done with all of the light sections. So I've done that, I've done the tone curve. So now that I'm done with this, I'm going to go down to the details and effects. And for this, I am going to zoom in just a little bit. No, look at all that noise. So I was shooting with a Canon EOS M50 Mark II, and I love this little camera. I will link it below. It was really not that cheap compared to a full frame. It's really tiny. It basically accompanies me on all of my like very strenuous adventures or ones where I don't have a lot of packing room and I can't take my huge camera. But this should be a testament to what you can do in Lightroom with a semi-professional, cheaper camera. You don't need this thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars setup. You can do it with your photos. So anyway, one of the things that I don't like about this camera is it doesn't do very well in low light. So that's why I had to bump up the ISO here in order to compensate for there not being a lot of light because it was blue hour. Now, if you're like, I have no clue what you're talking about and you don't know that golden triangle of exposure of adventure photography, I did make a free adventure cheat sheet. This is free, and it's just because I wanted you to be able to print it out, take it to where you are so that you can get your exposure right when you're in the field, and it's less work when you're in Lightroom. So go ahead and check that out. But in the meantime, if you do get this high ISO grain, do not panic. This little denoise feature right here, that is in detail, is so magical. Let's turn it on. It might think or it might just do it. Okay, let's see what it does. It might take a little bit. Let's see, 8 seconds is not that bad though. Okay, and done. Oh my gosh, look at the difference between that. Again, there's before and there's after. It's like night and day difference with noise here. This is just absolutely crazy technology that just blows my mind. Anyway, crazy. So I put the denoise on, And then I'm going to go up here. Now I do want the texture to be a little soft because, as I said, we're going for dreamy romantic here. So I might lower the texture just a little bit, increase the clarity just a little bit, dehaze, and then vignette. So a lot of photographers don't like vignette, and I am one of those that actually do. My magic number is -11. And if we zoom back out and look, this just adds like a really nice shadow around the photograph that just draws the viewer in and makes it multi-dimensional. So I personally like vignette. Sue me, sorry. So that's all that I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about these because I like where the vignette is. And then that's pretty much it for this panel. You can enable lens corrections. You might have to put in your specific camera model, or it might take it from the metadata. This just kind of helps with anything that's going on with your lens. I like it. Let's keep it. And then we're not going to do a lens blur or anything here. So we are done with this panel. Now let's do something kind of fun and maybe a little controversial. And it's this remove tool. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's like 80% strategy, 20% just luck. Sometimes it works like wonders. Sometimes it's like, eh. Now, I don't really love to use AI to change entire scenes, but I do like to use it just to minimize distractions. For example, like these little light spots here, we can just go through and we can just kind of remove them. The smaller it is, the more likely it is going to work. I have noticed here, and then you can go through right here and you can click different things. Okay, I feel like that is probably the best here. Okay, another, oops, and then I'm probably gonna try and remove this guy right here. Just any like distracting things, like, or like light spots. Sometimes I've removed like lens flares and stuff like that. Now for the bigger stuff, it gets a little trickier. Now I try not to use Photoshop. I'm not a Photoshop girly. I am a Lightroom girly. But one thing that stands out to me right here, what is this? What is this ugliness right here? I just don't like it. So let's give it a go. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, you know? I'm gonna increase my size. Now, the best thing that I can suggest for this is to just slightly go above the corners, because anything it sees, like if it sees a face or anything, it will try and make another face or another building. So just try to get the object just slightly bigger than what it is. And then there you go. You can use the detect objects over here. It's actually this box right here. It just does wonky things when I do that, so I try not to do that. Okay, let's see what it does. I'm very curious. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Okay, I don't love it. So let's generate it again. So as I said, sometimes it just does wacky things. The weirdest thing is when it does people. Like it just like creates people out of nothing, and it just like fuels my nightmares. Sometimes the best thing to do, you just gotta start over. It's a patience thing here, but trust me, it is worth it when it works. Okay, that's a weird like arrow thing. I don't like that. That's better. Okay, let's see what it looks like from outside here. Okay, that actually is not bad. I feel like that. Okay, no, that one, let's try to generate it one more time. Let's see. Oh, okay, that one. Oh, okay, I like that one. That one's not too bad either. I don't like that one. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with this one. So if you look at all of the generative AI and everything that you could do, here is before and here is after. Look at the difference. It's so nice. So now let's go to my actual favorite part in Lightroom, which is masking. Masking is this little icon right here, and basically it just lets you isolate parts of the photo and just edit those parts. And they have so many tools now for how it can detect things. Let's check it out. So the first thing that catches my eye with this photo right here is I don't really love how blue this is. It kind of looks dead to me. So I kind of want to add some yellow tones back in there to kind of contrast the sky a little bit. So I'm going to go, let's try landscape. Let's see if it detects it. You know, that's always the best case scenario here. Okay, cool. Oh, look at that. Okay, see, it detects the sky, the mountains, the architecture, and the vegetation. Love it. I'm going to click on the architecture and I'm going to say create. Now I know it thinks that this is vegetation, but I'm going to add to the mask. Because I want this to be included, because it is actually a part of the city and it's not vegetation. As I said, this is not perfect, but just saved me a lot of time with the brush going in there. Okay, so with this, I am going to add just a little bit more yellow. Oh, see, look, better. Add a little bit more pink to make it stand out with the sky so it doesn't look too out of place. I love this. Great. Maybe increase the contrast a little bit. Yes. Love it. I'm going to take the highlights out. Just a little texture, little clarity, little dehaze, and just a little sharpness. Ooh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, now I'm going to do the sky. And it did do some of the mountains. What I might do is I might... Let's see, it did take out that. Okay, I might add... Let's see if this works. Hold on. I'm going to add just like a little bit on the mountains. Great. And then I'm going to subtract... I'm going to actually subtract that tower so that it's more of a feathering gradient here. Architecture, subtract. Look at that. Perfect. Did it still have... Oh, and it still has the little window holes. I was a little worried about the window holes there because I want to make sure that I add the window holes to the sky. Okay, so now that I'm here to the sky, I'm going to just slightly increase the sky. Love it. Add some contrast. Ooh, look at that. I love that. Okay. And then here is where the only time where I'll suggest really cranking a slide is the highlights of the sky. And I'm just going to push them down. It just makes the sky pop. Maybe increase the exposure just a little bit more. Okay. It's looking dreamy. It's looking romantic. Look at that. I love it. Maybe a little bit of dehaze. There you go. Boom. Okay, next, let's isolate the mountains. So I'm going to go there. Mountains. And as I said, I want them to be purple. So I'm going to lighten them a little bit and then add those pink tones to make them purple. Yes, I love it. Now, these are looking a little blue. So I'm going to go down the saturation just a little bit just to make them match the sky. Yeah, I like that. Okay, now what do we do? I like this tower thing right here, but I don't think it's bright enough. That is like the subject of the photo. So I'm going to go to object. I'm going to see if it actually... Let's see if it actually detects this. Ooh, okay, it does. But it's got this house in there, and I want to make sure that I don't include the house or anything white here. Okay, so I have just isolated this little tower thing right here, and I'm just going to slightly bump up the exposure. Now again, I guess like that's too much. Go down, that's a little too much. Okay, what about there? Okay, I like it there. Now add like just a little bit of contrast there. I like that. Highlights. Again, I just don't really love highlights. I feel like I always am bringing them down. Okay, now here's the whites. A little bit more black. See, and I just feel like that just makes it pop just a little bit more than to what it was before. So anyway, there's after, before, after, before, after, before. Okay, so now really quick with masking. Again, I just want to make that subject stand out as much as I possibly can. So I might take just a slight linear gradient and just decrease that exposure just a little bit. And I might do that around at least like over here again, because I feel like that's just not what I want to be focusing on. Another linear gradient, put it up here. Also, these little spots right here are a bit yellow, so I might go in with a brush. I just don't want them to be yellow. I want them to be blue. That is my color palette for this photo. So I might go in here and I might change the temperature. Yeah, I like that. To just a little bit more blue. And I might, again, I'm gonna see. Maybe just like lessen the contrast. I just don't want it to be as noticeable. Okay, I think I like it there. Perfect. So again, that's after, that's before, that's after, that's before. What do you guys think? Do you like it? Now we could stop here. I do think that this is a little saturated. I do. So I think I'm going to take the vibrance. As I said, I'm going to take the vibrance a little down just to make it just a little bit more believable. Because if you do that, no one's going to believe that actually was there. You have your artistic vision, but make it do justice to the actual scene, if that makes sense. So I'm going to bring down my vibrance a little bit, and I am loving how this looks. I really do. I think I am going to take a brush, and I am going to just decrease the exposure just on these buildings just a tiny bit, just because they're a little bright. Yeah, I like that a lot better. They're not as distracting there. Okay, so this is my final image in Lightroom. Now I'm just gonna show you one little bonus trick, just because travel is unpredictable and focus is hard. So I am going to go through here. I am going to put my little signature watermark on it because I like that. Okay, there it is. There's my watermark. There it is, and I'm going to export it to my desktop. And then I'm going to open up this thing called Topaz Photo or Topaz AI. And this basically uses AI to sharpen photos. And, let's just see what it does. So let's go here. Let's open it. Great. It's going to analyze it. It's going to upscale it. Okay, let's denoise it all. Let's double denoise. Let's make this a crisp photo right here. Okay, great. A little bit. Oh yeah. See, there you can see the beginning and the end. And I'm also going to sharpen everything that needs to be sharpened. This is just a very quick step that I do on pretty much all my photos just to make them as sharp and clear as I can. So you can kind of see here, look at the difference between those two. Obviously, they both don't look good, but that is very, very zoomed in here. And just the difference really does work, especially if you're going to print these out or sell these or, blow these up on your wall. You really want to have a crisp image. So I'm going to export it. I'm going to save it. Okay, and right here is the final image of what I have. Honestly, just such a fun image. It just transports me right back to Florence and how much fun I had there. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Would you edit this differently? What is your photography style? Feel free to let me know in the comments. Follow, subscribe. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, as I said, I'm a traveling photographing mermaid. So I would love to, get in contact with you. I'd love to see your photos. I'm like the biggest photography cheerleader ever. And yeah, I'd also love to see your editing process and if it's different. And yeah, just let me know all of your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching this editing guide. It was such a pleasure to come to you and show you the behind the scenes of my little chaotic editing and how I edit my adventure photos. If you'd like to see more, we will see you next week. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye!